In a bustling city where skyscrapers touched the clouds and the streets echoed with the rhythm of ambition, a small cafe sat tucked between the glass and steel giants. A young waitress named Lena moved gracefully between tables, her apron dusted. With flour and coffee grounds, she carried plates of pastries and steaming cups of cappuccino to patrons who rarely looked at her face. She had grown up in this city where her mother worked 2 jobs, and her father had long since disappeared, leaving her with a stubborn streak and a quiet intelligence that shone only when no one was paying attention. On one particularly sunny morning, the cafe filled with the chatter of students, businessmen, and tourists, Lena navigated the chaos with practiced ease. Her colleagues whispered about a new customer rumored to be one of the wealthiest men in the country, a billionaire whose name alone could make headlines. He arrived with a small entourage, his tailored suit perfectly pressed his gaze scanning the room like a man surveying his kingdom. When he finally settled at a table near the window, Lena approached with her usual polite smile. He looked down at the menu with an air of superiority, and when Lena asked if he needed a recommendation, he smirked and spoke in flawless German, mocking her accent and pretending not to understand her language. He said words sharp and condescending, and the surrounding patrons stiffened at the sudden tension. Lena froze for a moment, but only for a moment. Her mind raced as she processed the insult. She had been underestimated her whole life, treated as invisible by people who thought wealth and power could buy everything, including respect. She took a deep breath and remembered the lessons her mother had taught her about pride, resilience, and wit. She returned to him speaking in the same language, but her tone, calm, precise, and unflinching. She used her knowledge of idioms and expressions to twist his words back at him, highlighting the arrogance hidden in his smile. Her colleagues watched in awe as Lena turned what could have been a humiliating moment into a subtle performance of intellect and courage. The billionaire blinked at her in disbelief, his lips parting slightly as he realized that the girl he thought naive had just dismantled his mockery with nothing but language sharpness and confidence. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing, but something new flickered in them. Curiosity, or perhaps the beginning of respect. The cafe hummed with the quiet buzz of the moment Lena walked away to complete her other orders, her heart racing, but steady, her mind calm, and her smile faint but victorious. The incident quickly became the talk of the cafe, not as gossip, but as a quiet legend. The regulars told the story to friends who told friends, and soon social media caught wind of a waitress who had bested a billionaire in his own language. Lena herself continued her daily routine, pouring coffee, taking orders, smiling at patrons, and moving with the rhythm of the cafe as if nothing extraordinary had happened. Yet behind her composed exterior, a storm of reflection brewed. She wondered about the power imbalance that had placed her in that position and how her response had shifted it even for a moment. She thought about her childhood memories of being laughed at for small mistakes in school and the feeling of invisibility in crowded rooms. She recalled nights spent studying alone late into the evening, learning languages and phrases, and sharpening her mind on books borrowed from libraries. The billionaire, on the other hand, returned to his world of boardrooms and contracts, yet his mind kept wandering back to the cafe table and the girl with the sharp tongue and unwavering gaze. He could not recall anyone ever responding to him in such a way. The memory gnawed at his ego and pride, making him question the assumptions he had carried since childhood about money, authority, and intellect. His meetings with associates became distracted, and his decisions slowed as he replayed the exchange in his mind. Each word Lena had spoken repeated in his thoughts with increasing clarity. He began to analyze her tone, her posture, and her deliberate calmness. He realized that she had not only defended herself, but subtly exposed his own insecurities in front of witnesses without raising her voice or breaking etiquette. He found himself researching the cafe, visiting the neighborhood on pretense of business and attempting to understand the small world she inhabited. While Lena continued her life, oblivious to the billionaire's obsession, she felt a change within herself, a surge of self-respect and courage that extended beyond the cafe. She began studying negotiation tactics and communication techniques and wondered how far her newfound confidence could carry her. One afternoon, she overheard colleagues discussing a possible media inquiry about the incident, and she realized that her story had taken on a life of its own. The realization was thrilling and terrifying, and she could not help but wonder how someone who had everything could feel so unprepared to face a simple human encounter. The ripple effect of a few words, spoken in the heat of the moment, began to expand in ways neither of them could have predicted. Weeks passed, and the billionaire returned to the cafe not as a tyrant or mocker, but with a quiet humility that surprised even his closest aides. Requested Lena to serve him again this time, with a demeanor that suggested curiosity and perhaps an unspoken apology. Lena approached with the same calm grace as before, but sensed a subtle difference in his energy. He attempted small talk in German, this time without mockery, and she replied with careful politeness, yet every word carried the weight of her confidence. The conversation that unfolded was measured and thoughtful. Lena spoke of her dreams, her interests, and her observations of human behavior, and the billionaire listened intently, as if seeing a new dimension to life. He found himself laughing genuinely at her humor and reflecting on lessons about respect, empathy, and human connection that he had long ignored. He offered her an opportunity to mentor his team on communication and cultural sensitivity, and she considered the offer with a mixture of skepticism and intrigue. She realized that this interaction could open doors that her hard work alone might not reach yet. She also knew that her integrity and identity must remain intact as the billionaire navigated a new understanding of power, not as dominance, but as responsibility. The cafe became a symbol for both of them, a place where social hierarchies blurred, and humanity spoke louder than wealth or status. Patrons who witnessed the renewed interaction felt the warmth of reconciliation and the thrill of seeing humility meet courage. The story of the waitress who answered mockery with intellect and calm spread even further, inspiring others to find strength in moments of confrontation and to remember that respect cannot be bought and arrogance can be silenced by wit and presence. Lena continued her life in the city, not as someone who sought recognition, but as someone who had discovered the profound power of her own voice, and the billionaire returned to his world, forever changed by a young woman who taught him that the smallest gestures of understanding and courage could leave the most powerful speechless.